Bonjour tout le monde. Good afternoon, everyone. It's so great to be here at AMO and with so many fantastic local leaders. Jay, thank you for that kind introduction. And I want to give a quick shout out to Colin Best and say thank you for your service as AMO president. I've enjoyed working with you. Please do. I want to express my gratitude for the opportunity to meet on unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin territory and reaffirm the Ontario Green Party's commitment to the truth and reconciliation process. You know, I look around this room and I see so many local leaders who know the importance of integrity and accountability. And I want to applaud the tireless efforts of women of Ontario Say No to demand that municipally elected officials be held accountable for violence and harassment in the workplace. And I want to thank my new caucus colleague, Ashlyn Clancy, for your leadership on this issue as a Kitchener City Councillor and as MPP. Greens will continue to push for provincial legislation to hold elected officials accountable and to establish a process to remove those who are found guilty of violence and harassment. You know, and I thank you for your work on this. You know, life in Ontario is hard right now. It's getting harder. Nowhere is this more obvious than the failure of the Ford government to address Ontario's housing crisis. Provincial flip-flops and policy failures have put municipalities in the impossible situation of picking up the pieces from chronic underfunding of vital public services, such as healthcare, mental health and addictions, and affordable housing. Downloading, lack of infrastructure funding, and the rising cost of climate is putting an unsustainable burden on municipal budgets. And as Premier, I promise that a Green government will change that. Instead of downloading blame and cost on the municipalities, Greens will partner with you on a new deal for cities and towns as we work together to build a fair, caring, climate-ready Ontario. A new deal that includes uploading highway, housing, and shelter costs, that includes matching 50% of transit costs because citizens in this province deserve reliable, affordable services. I want to be clear that it is simply unfair that in the province of Ontario, a whole generation of young people are wondering if they'll ever be able to afford to own a home. That people can't afford the rent in the communities they work. That the number of unhoused people has skyrocketed to almost 250,000 Ontarians. And it's unfair that local leaders like yourselves, businesses, and social services are being overwhelmed by provincial policy failures to fix this crisis. Legislated poverty, long wait times for mental health and addiction services, the refusal to build government-assisted, deeply affordable, nonprofit, co-op, and supportive housing. And a Green government will fix this by supporting your call for a review of the broken provincial municipal fiscal framework, by ending legislated poverty, by properly funding mental health and addictions, by building 250,000 government-supported nonprofit, co-op, and permanent supportive housing, by creating a ministry that connects affordable housing and mental health care. So we don't have this crazy situation like I experienced in my riding where we got the capital funding to build supportive housing, and then we had to fight for months to get mental health funding to open that supportive housing. We will do it by legalizing gentle density and missing middle homes so we can quickly build homes that people can afford in the communities they love without paving over our farms, forests, and wetlands. by ending unfair rent evictions and fixing the broken landlord-tenant board, by cracking down on speculation because homes should be for people, not speculators. In short, by having a government that puts the needs of ordinary Ontarians before wealthy, Ford-connected insiders. You know, my dad was a farmer and a small business owner. And my mom was an educator in a rural school. They had very different politics, which led to some very interesting conversations at our dinner tables. But one thing they shared that they both taught me was why it was so important to protect people in the places we love, that the foundation of our economic success and our quality of life is rooted in building caring communities. You know, Greens, we often talk about the climate crisis, but right now in Ontario, I believe we have a deeper crisis, and that's a crisis in caring. You see it in the fact that almost 250,000 people will not have a roof over their head tonight. You see it in the 2.5 million people who don't have a family doctor. The fact that hallway healthcare has bloomed from 800 to 1,800 people every day. That ERs are experiencing unprecedented closures, and that our elders are left waiting for access to home care and long-term care. You see it in the shortage of educators that is leading to increasing levels of violence and disruption in our schools. You see it in the fact that the wait list for autism services now exceeds 60,000 children, and that 500,000 people with disabilities in the province of Ontario are forced to live in legislated poverty. It's not right, and I know we as Ontarians are better than this. And that's exactly why, as I travel around this province, people tell me they are sick and tired of living in a province that is last in per capita funding for vital public services like healthcare. Because I know the people of Ontario care about each other more than those numbers reflect. And I see it in your commitment as local leaders. And that is exactly why Greens will continue to push for investments in public health care, public education, and public services that are so vital to building caring rural and urban communities. Having a government that cares about the people it serves means having honest conversations about how to fund the public services that people need and how to prepare for the increasing costs of unsafe weather resulting from the burning of fossil fuels. It's about priorities. It's about a government that has the priorities to say, no, we will not waste $10 billion on Highway 413. And we will use that money for healthcare, education, and affordable housing. It's about protecting our farmland, wetlands, and green spaces so nature can protect us from these floods that we've seen so much of just in the last few weeks. It's about avoiding the $1.3 billion in healthcare costs due to toxic air pollution from forest fires last summer alone, or the $4.1 billion infrastructure hit every year that Ontario's Financial Accountability Officer says climate will cost us if we don't reduce emissions. And the bottom line is municipalities simply cannot afford these escalating costs. And that is why you need a new deal for cities. That is exactly why Greens are committed to delivering stable, predictable infrastructure funding to make your communities climate ready so you can plan for the expenditures you know you need. That is also why we will seize this opportunity. While we're preparing for the worst, we also need to seize the opportunity of attracting more of the $1.8 trillion that was invested in the green transition last year alone. So as the Ford government ramps up expensive gas plants and forces homeowners to subsidize fossil gas infrastructure expansion, global investors poured $623 billion into renewable energy last year alone because solar is now the cheapest energy source. Heat pump installations exceeded those for gas furnaces in the EU and the US because they save people money while saving the planet. But unfortunately, Ontario is going in the opposite direction, putting our finances and our economy at risk. You know, while floods, droughts, and conflict reduce global food supplies, I want to give a shout out to Ontario farmers who are perfectly positioned to meet the moment, to supply the world with food, but not if the Ford government continues to pave over 319 acres of farmland each and every day, threatening our $50 billion food and farming economy. So let's be clear. We have solutions to the climate and caring crisis. And it starts with the values I learned on my family farm. Caring for people in the places we love. It's achieved by the values so dear to Greens, working together across party and jurisdictional lines to put people before party, the public good before wealthy, well-connected insiders. And in this room, I see hundreds of leaders who know that a better Ontario is possible. And Greens are here to work with you because, like you, we believe in people, community, and working together to make that better Ontario a reality. And I invite each and every one of you to work with us to build a fair, caring, climate-ready Ontario that puts people first. I want to thank you, merci, Mayor Whitwich, and thank you for the amazing work you do in our communities each and every day. Thank you.